Welcome to Reader Seeks Romance Channel's Romance Roundup, the #1 romance book recs talk show. I am Liz Donatelli.
And I'm Libby Kay, author of the sweet romance series Buckeye Falls.
In celebration of Pride Month, Libby and I are chatting with Amy Spalding, author of sapphic rom-com at her service. And Amy, Libby, and I will share must-read LGBTQ+ romance book recs and TBRs. Watch Romance Roundup on Reader Seeks Romance Channel and subscribe on YouTube. Listen to Romance Roundup on Podbean and all podcast apps. Viewers and listeners can email us at readerseeksromance@yahoo.com.
Liz, I think we have an announcement for our viewers and listeners.
Romance Roundup fans are invited to join our Zoom call-ins episode, which will record on Monday, June 17th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern. Libby and I would love to hear your romance book recs, romance book release news, and romance reading pleasures and peeves. Details are on Reader Seeks Romance on Instagram. Hello, Libby, and welcome, Amy.
Hey.
Thank you for taking time to join us on Romance Roundup, Amy.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Amy, you are the recipient of the 2023 Human Rights Campaign Visibility Award for the authentic, funny, and diverse representation of the LGBTQ+ community in your books. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So how has receiving this award impacted your life and your storytelling?
I did have to go into therapy over it. So that's how it affected my life. Because when I got the email about it, I was like, is this a scam? I'm being scammed. And one of my friends was like, how is this a scam? And I was like, well, maybe I would go back and they would point and laugh at me and be like, haha, you thought you got this award. And my friend's like, oh, and then like dump pig's blood on your head. I was like, exactly. I think I'm getting carried. And it just turns out that maybe that's a weird way to think. So it did. I did start therapy again, and am dealing with my being able to accept when good things happen, which is fun for me, and probably mentally healthy. It was a really meaningful thing for me once I accepted that I was not going to get doused in pig's blood, and you know, the warmth and appreciation of the HRC in St. Louis, my hometown, was just extraordinary. I was sort of not prepared for how, I mean, obviously if someone's going to give you an award, they think highly of you, but it really was just such a, I don't know, their team was so lovely. It was an incredible night, and I just feel really honored by it. So, I mean, I just want to keep doing that work. And also I don't, like, I know everyone says this, like, I don't do the work to get awards, but I really don't. Yeah. When you write like funny books and when you write romance, like you are already sort of often like putting yourself in a category that like people don't take as seriously. It's not like the type to get like a lot of awards. And so like I'm obviously I'm fine with that, or I wouldn't be here. So like to be recognized was so sort of like, obviously it was shocking, but it was wonderful. And for like literally just doing the thing I want to do is even better.
Right. Can you give us an overview of your Out in Hollywood series?
Yes. The first book is For Her Consideration, which is a celebrity / normie book.
Yeah, I know. Doesn't that, I've been hearing that more and more as the name of that trope, but it does need some work. Because
I'm like celebrity regular person. Well, that seems like you're implying that a celebrity is not a regular person at all.
Yeah.
Because in some ways they are. They are humans. And then celebrity normie sounds like slightly insulting to the not celebrity. So yeah, I almost said celebrity rando, which is even meaner. But
but you know, I guess rando sounds almost like someone who just a drifter, a dangerous drifter.
Yes. Not that I would absolutely read a celebrity dangerous drifter book. Please, someone write that for me. But that's
you mean a romance between a celebrity and a dangerous drifter? I would.
Absolutely.
I would totally read that. Someone write that for us, please. That sounds great.
I think you need to do it.
And I wanted to be stereotypical. If I tried to write
danger, it would just be like a person who was like slightly behind on their student loan payments, or like smoked a cigarette in junior high. Like, I don't know how to do it.
Oh my
I don't
God.
know. Being slightly behind in your student loans sounds more like a horror book than a romance.
Yeah.
Oh, don't even get me started.
Oh,
Barely have not defaulted myself in my slightly younger days. And then At Her Service is in the same world as For Her Consideration, but it's about a talent agency assistant who's trying to climb the ropes and a hot bartender who she's convinced she is unable to get because the hot bartender is so hot. But it's also At Her Service is very much about that part in your 20s where it's sort of like that second adolescence of like you move out, you get a job in the field you want, you're technically an adult, but you're like, am I? Am I? Because I just feel like a child who has to pay rent to someone now.
Right.
yeah, that's very relatable.
Yeah, I think so many people go through it now, especially people who like move to big cities, people who move away from home. And you sort of have this idea of what your life's going to be, and then you get there and you're like, oh, I'm just still me, but I'm somewhere cooler and more expensive. Okay.
Yeah. So
Like
now,
For Her Consideration is so much about like chosen family
mhm,
and sort of having that community that you can rely on and that will support you, but also will like call you out on your shit, which I think is important. And
Mhm.
At Her Service is much more about like how do you build that? What does that look like? And like how
mhm,
do you do the work to like find
yeah.
others that you can really, share your life with?
Right. I love this series because it's so LA. Like there's so much about LA in it. And I do miss LA. Um, now
Yeah.
that I live in Columbus, Ohio. There's only one thing I desperately crave from time to time is In and Out. It's the
Oh
only
Oh
God,
thing
I
yeah.
miss In and Out so much.
I've mentioned to my husband, next time you go to, LA, can you please, right before you get on the airplane, can you, buy In and Out for me and bring it back? And he always says it's not gonna be fresh, it's not gonna taste the same. But I think he just doesn't want to do it. I don't think he wants to inconvenience himself.
There's
I think
one right by the airport
there
at
is.
LAX.
Yes, there is, because
I have been there many a time.
that is the
I
one to go to.
I hate to be on Tom's side about this, but I think as someone who like likes her things to be a certain texture and temperature, I am like imagining going through that line and then you have to get to LAX, you have to go through security, you have to wait, you have to board, you have to fly, you have to like maybe in the airport if you immediately eat it when he lands, maybe. But I still think it's going to be troubling.
Well,
But if is that better than not having it? Maybe.
I need to have that taste in my mouth.
Get in one of those like coolers they use for like organ transfers.
Yes,
If it's good enough to take a
yes.
human heart somewhere, it should be good enough for like a double double.
A double double
Do y'all
animal
remember like the
style.
80s? There were like the McDonald's boxes that were styrofoam, and on one
Yes,
side they had the like
yes.
warm stuff, and
Yep, yep.
It can happen. That's
you'd
all
have
I
to
want.
take it apart. And then, but if Tom loves you, he could take a sandwich apart and put it back together.
He doesn't. He doesn't. That's
Is
why I
this like
read
a new
romance
love
novels.
language? The love language of cold hamburgers.
So, in At Her Service, Max lives with an influencer who needs help testing this self actualization app called U.0, which I thought was a fun name.
Props to author Morgan Matson who came up with the name U.0.
Oh, and
It's so good.
well, that's very kind of you to give that credit where credit is due, because I just assumed you came up with that fun name.
If there's like a fun name, I've never come up with it.
Really?
Is
Oh,
the rule. Yeah, I'm so
Oh,
good at things, but not that.
well, that
I'm like, I can
disappoints
write a
me.
whole book, but come up with a clever name for an app? No.
So what gets the story rolling is Max being kind of like the guinea pig for this app. So many would say that a self-actualization app like U.0 is a very LA thing to use. So I was wondering if there's a very LA story behind conceiving the plot of At Her Service.
I just wanted to like I wanted to put Max in a scenario that was like uncomfortable and challenged her in certain ways. Because the thing about Max is she's so capable and people really think of her that way, but she doesn't see herself that way. And she's decided no one sees herself that way. And so and like really likes to sort of like keep things to herself and not be public about things. And like this is someone who like wants to have like a big wig Hollywood career. And it's like you can't necessarily be someone then who's just going to like quietly sit and like hope that the quality of your work is what's shining. Like you have to like, you know, advocate for yourself and speak up and like call some attention to yourself. And I loved the idea of, you know, having to do this app in front of people, like being taken out of her comfort zone, but also like to have this like cool influencer roommate that she just kind of tries to avoid, that she's like forced to interact with. She is forced to like become her peer. And I just love throwing people together when they do not want to be thrown together, but also when it's sort of uneven because her roommate is very like, Max, you're cool. And Max is like, what is happening? And probably the most LA thing about it is it never seems super LA to me, but of course it is to like get these little like pearls of wisdom from an app and like, you know, go to see a career coach and go to all gender gym and all of this stuff that it's just like, of course that's what you do in LA. It like in a very specific certain kind of way.
I know that you're a big fan of musical theater. And I read a 5-star review on NetGalley of At Her Service. And I wanted to read part of it to you because I really think you'll get a kick out of it. And I'd like to ask a follow-up question. So reviewer KPP wrote this silly note before jumping into the review. At one point while reading this book, I fell asleep. Not because the book was boring, but because I'm a very sleepy girl. And I dreamed multiple scenes of this book into a musical with full songs and choreography. And to be quite honest, it slayed. So just putting that into the universe because I'd love to see that when I'm actually conscious. I don't know if you're aware of this NetGalley review, if anyone.
I have not seen that review. That's incredible. I love this so much.
How would you adapt At Her Service into a musical?
I think in the musical, it'd very much be about U.0. I feel like U.0 would be like the whole, like a big focus. Maybe there would be some sort, you know, like in Dear Evan Hansen, they had like a cool way where you saw like the text that people were sending like on the screen. I feel like you would see like the alerts and like the advice and like maybe the social media engagement as she's getting more popular and the campaign is doing well. I think that would be really, that's the part I'm like thinking, like for some reason, I'm like, well, I can imagine the staging. It might be fun if it was something like in Fun Home where like the slightly older Allison is like embarrassingly narrating like what happened to her when she was younger. Cause I think there's sometimes when you have a little distance of like, oh my God, look at what a fool I made of myself in front of my boss or this girl I like. So I think, I don't know, maybe a little bit of that kind of storytelling, but also, I don't know, whatever this person had in their head, I am just really into, and I would love, I'm like, please email me if you see this. Tell me everything. That's amazing.
So someone else on NetGalley also mentioned that the lesson that Max learns was kind of akin to the lessons Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz learns about like the power being in yourself. And I was like, another musical reference, and you've written also characters in your YA novels with involving musical theater. So I'm wondering if you're subconsciously writing things that are writing romance that's resonating with musical theater fans, and like you're
well, there are like musical theater jokes in almost all of my books.
Right.
There's definitely multiple jokes in this one. There's jokes in the book I'm writing now. Like, yes. So yes, I feel like I probably like, it's like when I read a nonfiction book that's like about a very specific topic, but I'm like, for some reason when I'm reading, I'm like, the person who wrote this book is gay. I can just tell. There's nothing gay in the book. I'm just like, this is a gay written book. And I'm always right. And I feel like musical theater is similar in that like people are just like, this person loves musical theater, no matter how little musical theater is in this novel.
Coming from the writer's perspective, Amy, I'm always interested with writers. Are you more of a pantser or are you a plotter? Like, how much do you have to outline a book before you really get into it?
I always like to publicly say I reject those terms. They make me feel like the word moist does to some people. So I think in romance, I think it's really helpful to know where you're going because it's so like story beat dependent. And like, we love the tropes of the meet cute and the big gesture. And I do think when you know, even if you're just like, the basic stuff, like these two people run into each other somewhere interesting, like you'll figure out where, this person is going to have to apologize to this person, maybe using this element. Like I like to at least get those things down, because I think then you can write toward it. You can like find little fun payoffs that you're going to like use later. And that doesn't mean like I'm not someone, like my outline is often like literally it will be that simple. It'll be like they see each other here, it goes well, or like it goes horrible. So it's not, I like it's usually very, I don't say it's vague, but it's quick. It's just sort of like a sentence about every story beat. And then as I'm writing and I learn more about the characters, I'm filling it in more. I'm thinking about like ways to use these things more, like, okay, I've learned this, like how can I like have payoff with it? But it's often like happening at the same time, or sort of like the metaphor I like is like I'm in the dark and I'm going down a road, but I have a flashlight, but it can't see to the end of the road, but it can see like at least like 10 feet ahead at all times.
That makes perfect sense.
And
that makes
like,
perfect sense.
That helps me. And also like if I stay up on the outline, then when like the outline doesn't work, I haven't like written like 10,000 words that I need to kill.
Yes. Yes.
Like instead I'm like, oh, I just have to delete like 3 paragraphs from an outline, and that does not hurt it still hurts because you're like, I have to think of new things, but like it's so much different than like I've gone down the wrong path and I've like written so much and spent so many weeks on this.
Yes. No, been there, done that. It's not my favorite thing.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's always sometimes cutting stuff does feel good because you're like, oh, that wasn't working, I'm just gonna get rid of it. But then you're like, oh, what have I been doing with my life? So it is like it's always sort of for me like a toss-up.
Since you have written adult and YA romance, is there, and I know you can't really say, yes, I love one more than the other, but do you like writing it? Do you find that one comes to you easier than the other?
I love both. I never thought the YA voice came really naturally to me. And I loved YA, and it felt like the really right place. And I was never interested in writing anything else, honestly. And then I started reading more romance, and I started reading like really modern romances. And I thought like, oh, like I love this. I want to do it. And when I was thinking about it, it was like there were hardly any traditionally published queer romances. There'd be like 1 or 2 a season. And I was just like, I want to be in that. I want to do this. I'm really happy in adult romance. It feels like where I'm like feeling myself like really comfortable at the moment. And I mean, I'm not saying I'll never write YA again, but right now it just feels really good. And I feel like why not follow that and see what happens? And,
oh, yeah.
Libby and I both checked on Goodreads, and it appears that there are another 2 books 3 and 4, yet to come in the Out in Hollywood series. So where are you right now? Are you finished with book 3?
My editor left, which was really sad. And then I got a new editor, and she was amazing. And I was like, great. And then I turned in my book to her, and then she also left. And so then they're like, we're going to hire a new editor, and you can work with the senior romance editor, but she doesn't exist yet. So hang on. And so they've hired her. We have connected. She is amazing. I got a great editorial letter. And by great, I mean work that is hard, but also like I feel really excited and challenged by. And so that is what I'm doing now. I'm going to turn this in hopefully in like a week, and then I'll be mostly done besides copy edits. Excellent. And there are like documents in my computer about book 4, but it's, I probably have 8 pages of it written. So it's going to be a little bit.
Can you tease book 3 a little, or you can't share anything?
I can tell you it's a fake dating book. Oh. I can tell you that you will see many characters from the previous books.
Okay.
Like many, like so many characters, until there's like the cover is out and like something. Yeah. I just am sort of like, let's just be real teasy about it till then.
For her, will her be appearing in the title?
It'll be a preposition and her. Yes. Do you know how angry I am that I've put myself in this position where I have to keep coming up with this very specific like setup, preposition, her, something?
Very relatable. I did that with my book series as well, having to use the word fall all the time.
You come up with 2 good ones and you're like, great, nailed it. And then you have to do a third and you're like, why did I do this to myself?
Well, Libby has 5. You can do 5.
That's the whole reason the series is ending at 5 books is I freaking ran out of titles.
I believe it. The third one was the hardest to name. Book 4 came fairly easily. So I'm like, great, I'm done. This is it.
Yeah. Okay. I hope that in either book 3 or 4, there will be a Donatelli mention. Someone will be Donatelli.
Oh, someone could have a last name Donatelli. Why not?
Yeah, I don't know. Just Throwing it
That
out
could
there.
happen.
Throwing it out there.
So Amy, obviously it's Pride Month, and so we're highlighting different LGBTQ plus authors and books we're excited about. Do you have any that you want to share with us and our readers and listeners?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Do you know what book I haven't read yet, but I'm really excited about? Anita Kelly's most recent book, How You Get the Girl,
Yes.
and Alison Cochran's latest book, which is Here We Go Again, I believe.
Here we go again.
Yeah.
It's a road trip book. Yes. The two of them are just such really wonderful writers who I just feel like understand how a romance works. And like, those are two writers who it's like they do all the romance stuff well, but also like are really writing about really specific queer individuals and like bringing that sort of like identity to it as well. And it just like, oh, it always lands for me that everything the two of them write. Those are two things off the top of my head.
Are there any LGBTQ plus authors or books that you've read recently or within the last year or 2 years?
I love how it's hard to remember a name. Like I get on a call and I'm just like, what are books? What are they like? I'm reading Maisie Eddings' Late Bloomer right now, which first of all has the most beautiful cover of a book maybe ever.
Yes, we just read that last month.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really enjoying that. The problem is I read a lot of library books and then they disappear from my Kindle. And I'm like, where are they? I've read things. It's really important to me.
Libby, do you have any book recs?
Yes, I was inspired with the theme of Hollywood and Amy's books. I haven't read it yet. I'm very excited to read it. It's called Lights, Camera, Passion by Isabel Lucero. This is self-pub, came out this March of 24. Tropes include it's an enemies to lovers and celebrity romance. Again, I was going to say celebrity normie, but now I don't know what to say.
I know.
We have to come up with something right now. We have to change this because the celebrity normie thing, it doesn't even roll off the tongue nicely.
No,
and you're right. It does sound kind of insulting.
So what would be the opposite of a celeb? A performer and non-performer?
I don't know, like civilian.
Sometimes I say civilian, but that's not quite right either.
But yeah. And now that I just reread the description, they're both celebrities. I was thinking of something else as I was looking at this. It's 10 o'clock, man. My brain is not.
Take it again.
From how far? Tropes include enemies to lovers, and this is a celebrity romance. It is two actors, and they are both brought in to do an adaptation of a popular book. But they hate each other and they have to play love interests. And so shenanigans will ensue. Obviously, sparks are going to fly. The reviews on this have been very good. I like how everybody's mentioning the tension and the chemistry. So that is exactly what I'm in the mood for. I don't know about you, Amy, but I'm a big mood reader. I have to be in the right frame of mind for a book. I'm not usually good if someone says, here, read this book. I need to know exactly what I'm coming in for.
I think because I'm such a library reader and I have to go with like what's going to expire if I don't read it, that I've like had to sacrifice mood reading and been much more like, well, got 3 days left on this one. You're starting it today.
No, see, and here's the problem. I'm a librarian, so I kind of know how to game the system, and I think that's how I beat it.
That's how you
I game the system a little, but you know, it's then I feel like I constantly have that stress of like, is your phone on airplane mode? Do not open your phone. So
yes, exactly.
And then it's just like you're living with this weird ticking time bomb. And I'm like, why am I making reading so stressful? It's supposed to be like my joy.
Yes, no, totally get that.
A book I'm really excited about is Katie Hoffman's The Prospects.
I've heard a lot about it. I've heard a lot about it.
It's a sports romance, which is not usually my thing, but I've heard so many good things that I'm like, I love it when I read something that I'm like, oh, wouldn't normally be my thing, but everyone who's recommended it I trust, and so I'm gonna sports it up.
Exactly. No, the reviews on that have also been outstanding. I have that literally on my nightstand. I'm very excited.
Before I give my book rec, I would like to say I've been brainstorming and I came up with 2 possible solutions for the celebrity normie problem that we've created. Really. How about instead of just saying celeb, non-celeb? Celeb, non-celeb?
I mean, that gets the point across.
Or fame, no fame.
I started thinking of famous/infamous. I think I was like, something's been triggered with the drifter and the celebrity. That who knows where my brain is now.
So my book rec is Sapphic Romance Second Night Stand released in May 2024 by Hachette Imprint Forever, and written by married couple Corellia and Faye Stetz Waters. Second Night Stand is an opposites attract romance between a professional ballet dancer and a burlesque dancer / app programmer. And I think it's interesting that I'm seeing as like a job for romance protagonists, it's more and more has to do with apps. Like apps play into either it's a, there's an app as part of the plot device. There's an app because the person works with that. So I find that interesting. I think that app programmer and app developer is going to replace, the traditional, what would be something? You'd be like, oh, the person works in marketing. They work in advertising.
Event planner.
Right. Event. I hope it takes over event planning. I'm getting to hear what event planning in romance. Wedding planning, event planning. Oh, wait, don't tell me. Is there a wedding and event planning in your next book? No.
There's no. Well,
on either of your books, is there event planning or wedding
there
planning?
Is a wedding, but there is no planning because it's not my character getting married, and she is not planning it either. So
okay, I just had to say that because every time I say something that I'm not.
Oh my God, right?
Somebody
like, I like all books except for books like this. And they're like, that's all my new books. And you're like,
right. I
just run into traffic. I'm sorry.
The ballet dancer and the burlesque dancer, who's also an app programmer, have what they believe to be a one-night stand, then learn that their dance troupes are competing against each other on a reality TV show. And I love the reality TV show trope. I have to say, I'm really into that.
That's one reason I love Anita Kelly's Love and Other Disasters, because they're on like a amateur Top Chef type of show.
Yeah.
And it just adds this that things are happening in front of an audience and in front of judges. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Now, what I did like about this is that Second Night Stand, there's no real hate or intense rivalry. They actually are really kind of rooting for each other because they like each other, and nobody they have the production staff wants everybody to get nasty, and everyone is really taking the higher road. They're like, yeah, we don't really want to do that, which I thought was refreshing. There's lots of found family. There's lots of wisdom, so many highlighted passages, and the communication was strong. And I feel like that is a big pet peeve of romance readers. It's like, oh, miscommunication, poor communication. And the communication is so strong. It's it's almost like a book you want people to read when they're having relationship issues. It's like, read this because it's going to teach you how to communicate and how to structure the conversations you should be having. So, Second Night Stand hugs your soul.
Dang, what a review.
Yeah.
So anyway, amazing. I also love Corellia's work. So I've been so excited about that one. I feel like I'm going to move it up in my TBR pile.
Yeah, definitely move it up. And Corellia did mention Liz and Reader Seeks Romance in the acknowledgments.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, Corellia always mentions all the, influencers, bloggers, everyone who has supported her. Yeah, I thought that was nice. So that's something that authors who know me could do.
Note to self.
Again, if I can remember, Liz, you will be immortalized. But
someday,
relies in my brain.
Does anyone have any other LGBTQ plus books that would be perfect for Pride Month?
You've just caught me at this time where I'm really not I am writing my LGBTQ romance, so I'm sort of it's not what I'm reading right now until I turn this freaking thing in, and then I just I'm bring on all the books. The thing that excites me is that there's so many that I'm behind, because again, it used to be 1 to 2 a season, and you'd read it, you'd be like, well, that was great. Where's the other things like that? And and someone's like, oh, well, mine will be out in 2 years, and I'm like, okay,
right.
So I love that I have a chance to fall behind now, because that never used to happen. It's really, it's really exciting.
Absolutely. Well, Amy, it's been fun chatting with you as always.
As always.
Yes. Thank you for joining.
Yes, thank you. It's so nice to meet you.
It's so nice to meet you. This has been so fun.
I'm glad you think so. And maybe when you're writing your acknowledgments for book 3, you'll say, oh, I had so much fun. Oh, that's right. I should just mention Liz and Libby, or just Liz. Libby doesn't mind if it's just me.
As long as you include Liz, I don't care what happens.
Yeah, I get that vibe for sure.
And that's our Roundup. Watch Romance Roundup on Reader Seeks Romance channel and subscribe on YouTube. Listen to Romance Roundup on Podbean and all podcast apps. Thanks for joining us, romance readers.
Happy reading, everyone.